Is anyone out there listening? Good. You've tuned into Lavender Town Radio, the only station brave enough to broadcast the static between worlds. Tonight, we have a story for you, a whisper from the shadows, a tale woven from the dark pages of the Pokédex that they never wanted you to read. But first, a small favor. If you find a chilling comfort in our stories, show your support by hitting the like button. It's a small click for you, but it's a beacon for us in the digital darkness. And to ensure you never miss a transmission, make sure you subscribe and ring that little bell. It helps our signal cut through the noise. All right, the signal is clear. Now, are you comfortable? Good. Let's begin.
The trip to Lavender Town was like a journey into the underworld. The atmosphere shifted the moment we passed through the rolling hills of Route 8. The clear Kanto sky seemed to take on a grayer shade here. Even the bold Pidgey kept a respectful distance. We didn't talk much. The Jigglypuff melody, once associated with innocence and sleep, now carried a haunting undertone, a guide to a place everyone knew of, but no one wanted to name. Do you think this is related to what happened at the Pokémon Tower? Rhys asked, breaking a silence that had stretched for miles. No way, I replied, perhaps too quickly. Those are just urban legends, Rhys, stories made up to scare kids. But even as I said it, I didn't believe my own words. This 3301 event felt calculated, deliberate. It didn't feel like a coincidence. Lavender Town greeted us with a solemn silence. The small town, nestled under the shadow of the colossal Pokémon Tower, seemed to be in a state of perpetual twilight. We rented a small inn room, and I set up my equipment. A high-sensitivity radio receiver, a spectroanalyzer, and enough coffee to keep us up all night. We didn't have to wait long.
The AM radio channel was nothing but static, a constant sss, like the breathing of a giant serpent. We sat there for hours, listening to the emptiness. Rhys, with the patience of a ranger, just sat there, eyes closed, as if trying to sense something beyond the sound. I, on the other hand, was glued to the spectroanalyzer screen, looking for any anomaly, any pattern in the chaos. And then, at the stroke of midnight, as the bell from the Pokémon Tower tolled, the static stopped. An absolute silence, so profound it hurt my ears. And then, a robotic, emotionless voice came from the speakers, crisp and clear. It recited a poem. 2 souls from a single shell. One flies fast, one stands still. The swift one follows the path of iron and fire. The silent one seeks the echo in bone. Trust not each other's eyes, only your own path. A companion's shadow will obscure the answer. The moment the last line finished, the static returned, and the voice was gone. We sat there stunned. That's the next riddle, Rhys whispered. It's more than a riddle, I said, feeling a chill. It's a warning. Only your own path, a companion's shadow, will obscure the answer. It's telling us to split up. Rhys nodded, his face grim. It's testing us, not just our intellect, but our trust in ourselves. We reread the poem line by line. 2 souls from a single shell. One flies fast, one stands still. Ninjask and Shedinja, Rhys said instantly. Ninkada's evolution, a creature of speed, and an empty husk, a soul left behind. Life and death born from the same moment.
Okay, so what about the next two lines? I asked. The swift one follows the path of iron and fire. The silent one seeks the echo in bone. And that's where we diverged. For me, the person of logic, iron and fire were physical, measurable elements. Iron was technology, machinery. Fire was energy, destruction, and also rebirth. There was only one place in Kanto where those elements converged so explicitly. Cinnabar Island, I said with certainty. The lab where fossil Pokémon were revived. It was built on an active volcano. Iron and fire. Science and rebirth. The path of the swift one has to be a path of action, of tangible proof. Rhys shook his head, his eyes distant. You're thinking too literally, Elara. Listen again. The silent one seeks the echo in bone. This isn't about science. It's about spirituality. Bone is what remains. Death. The echo is the spirit, the memory. There's only one place in Kanto filled with such echoes. The place we're in right now. The Pokémon Tower. We argued. For the first time in years, we couldn't find common ground. I argued his reasoning was too vague, too based on feelings. He argued I was ignoring the deeper, metaphorical meaning of the poem, that I was getting lost in the dry data. Finally, Rhys sighed. Maybe this is the test, to see which of us is right, your logic or my intuition. He looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw a sadness I couldn't comprehend. We have to separate, Elara. It's the only way. I agreed, reluctantly. Fine. Whoever finds the clue first calls the other immediately. Of course, he said, but something in his voice made me feel that promise might never be kept. The next morning, he walked towards the Pokémon Tower. I took the first ferry to Cinnabar Island. We didn't look back. Cinnabar Island was a ghost of its former self. The volcano still smoldered, and much of the island had been abandoned after the eruption. The old laboratory, where Mewtwo was once created, was now a concrete skeleton being reclaimed by nature. I had to sneak in, past the warning fences. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of sulfur and decay. Most of the equipment was destroyed, but in the secondary server room, protected by thicker walls, I found an old computer still running, powered by some backup generator. I thought this was it, the answer, but it was a dead end. The computer held no riddle. It contained thousands of corrupted data files, research notes on failed experiments, desperate attempts to recreate life from the fragments of the past. I spent a day and a night there, obsessed trying to recover every byte of data, convinced a logical clue had to be somewhere in this mess. The ghostliness of the place started to get to me. I heard strange noises, the creak of metal, footsteps in the hall outside. Occasionally, I'd see a fleeting shadow in the corner of my eye as fast as a Ninjask. I told myself it was just the building settling, or my own tired mind. After 26 sleepless hours, I was on the verge of breaking down from frustration. I sat amidst the meaningless data and stared at the screen. And then a line in a failed experiment report caught my eye. Failure to revive dome fossil. Bone sample too brittle. Cannot withstand the heat of the regeneration process. Bone. Fire. And then everything shattered into place, like a lightning strike. I was wrong. Completely wrong. I had focused so much on the iron, the technology, that I forgot the rest of the verse. Iron and fire wasn't a place. It was an action. Iron was the scythe of a kabutops, made of bone as hard as steel. Fire was the breath of an Aerodactyl, said to be able to melt rock. They were the fossil Pokémon, creatures reborn from bone. I reviewed the poem, two souls from a single shell. The swift one follows the path of iron and fire. The silent one seeks the echo in bone. They weren't two different paths. They were two sides of the same concept. Fossils. Bone was what remained. Iron and fire was the process of reviving them. Both lines pointed to the same place. A place where death and recreated life met. A place with both bones and the sheens. The Pewter Museum of Science. Rhys hadn't gone to the Pokémon Tower. He'd realized this from the start with his damn intuition. He'd gone straight to Pewter. I scrambled for my X-transceiver, my hands shaking. I called Rhys. It didn't ring. It went straight to voicemail. A cold dread, worse than any ghost in Lavender Town, washed over me. He was a long way ahead of me, and I had the feeling he'd walked into a place I couldn't follow.
I raced to Pewter City like a mad woman. I got to the Museum of Science near midnight, convincing the old security guard to let me in by flashing my PI license and a fabricated story about a security threat. The fossil exhibit was terrifying at night. The colossal skeletons of Aerodactyl and Kabutops cast long, distorted shadows across the floor. I called Rhys's name, my voice echoing in the museum's silence. I searched everywhere. Nothing. I was about to give up, thinking maybe I was wrong again. But then I saw it. In a dark corner of the research area, off limits to the public, beneath the massive ribcage of a Kabutop skeleton, there was a desk. And on it, placed deliberately, were Rhys's things. His frayed, moss-green backpack. Beside it, a single Pokeball, the one containing his loyal Umbreon. And perched on top of the pack, almost glowing in the dark, was the translucent shed husk of a Ninjask. A Shindinja. My heart stopped. I approached slowly, as if nearing a crime scene. Everything was there. Everything, except Rhys. I reached out my hand and touched the Shindinja. It was ice cold. And the moment my finger made contact with that Kachina's shell, every sound in the museum seemed to be sucked away. The hum of the air conditioner, the buzz of the fluorescent lights, the frantic beat of my own heart, it all vanished. An absolute, suffocating silence, as if I had been plunged deep underwater. I looked into the hole on the Shindinja's back. I didn't see anything. I didn't feel my soul being pulled away. I felt nothing at all. And that was the most terrifying part, the absolute emptiness. Rhys was gone. He had solved the puzzle. He had gotten here first. He had found the final clue. But what did he find? A prize? An invitation? Or something else entirely? There were no answers, only his belongings left behind, and a silent Shindinja, a sentinel to a mystery that would never be solved. The hive had found what they were looking for, and they had vanished as quickly as a Ninjask, leaving nothing behind but a permanent question and a cold silence in my heart. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just stood there, in the silence of the museum, staring at the empty shell of my best friend. The game was over. He had won, and I had lost in a way I never could have imagined.
The transmission is ending. The static is creeping back in. Thank you for listening to Lavender Town Radio. Remember, the Pokédex only tells you half the story. We're here for the other half. Your thoughts on this story are valuable. They tell us what scares you. Leave them in the comments. To To help us continue broadcasting from the abyss, please hit the like button and, most importantly, subscribe. More subscribers mean a stronger signal, and a stronger signal means more secrets can be revealed. This is Lavender Town Radio, signing off. Be sure to check your shadows. You never know what might be listening.